Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Carrion Baggage event, in which the Carrion Crow is added to the game. Of course, this week marks the Season 10, or Campaign 10 of Gems of War, and with it we do, of course, get a new Power Gem, among a few other things. As far as that Power Gem is concerned, it is the Gargoyle Gem, specifically the good and bad variety. The good one ends up giving a random positive stats effect to all your allies, and the bad one, which we can actually see right here, we get to determine it based on its eyes. This one will give a random negative stats effect to all enemies. If it has red eyes, it is the bad one. If it has blue eyes, it is the good one. Luckily, he did not get it there, so we could take it for ourselves. So as you can see there, we got a Curse, we got a Stun, we got an Entangle, we got a Fairy Fire, and just a bunch of various benefits that we can then end up utilizing. Let's see if we can go for the good one, though pretty obvious what it does if we don't end up getting one here. It does the exact inverse of what just happened, where it would give a positive one to all of our allies rather than a negative to all the enemies. But yeah, the good one has blue eyes, the bad one has red eyes. Overall, there isn't currently anything that can create them, so no like kind of consistent setups at the moment, though it does look like the new kingdom coming in about a month will end up utilizing it some, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Aside from that, as far as other things that we're getting from the campaign, it looks like quite a few stone block related things, which is kind of interesting. More so the mythic actually looks kind of decent. Oh, that's not what I want to do. But if we go over to the campaign, I'm trying to find the weapon here that's hiding. Somewhere's here. There it is. Okay, so as far as the weapon, ends up dealing some true damage to an enemy, boosted by stone blocks, and then create some stone blocks. This is currently going to be the first highest amount of stone block creation, since you can kind of just keep spamming this. Overall, probably not going to be too good compared to Rope Dart and other similar things. However, one thing that is going to be pretty good, however, is the Medusa. The main benefit for it is it's impervious into Curse Stun, so that alone already pretty good. Curse Stun is pretty notorious for being able to just completely disable out traits. There are a lot of times where we're going to run a 4x Curse, 4x Stun just to be able to do that to the enemy. However, there is a way now to do it pretty effectively on one single troop as soon as Medusa comes in at the end of this campaign. Aside from that, it gets to deal true damage to an enemy boosted by stone blocks. However, the most interesting thing about this is that it gets to convert 8 gems that are mana color into stone blocks. This is a pretty decent amount, and stone blocks are pretty good for blocking out the board for converters. You can also, for double converters, but you can also end up making it smaller if you're doing a single color to the board. So let's say, for example, you want to create a bunch of purple and put it into the board. Not only would that feed back into it to make the board even smaller, but you can just kind of keep spamming extra turn after extra turn by getting a nice concentration of a single color. But it'll hard counter double converts, like for example Divine Symbolic Quillen combo, as it will not have as much ways to be able to get alignment and won't be able to function as well, whereas gem spawns of a single color will be able to function a little bit better. And of course, destroy and explode as they normally would just be so much value and just completely clear the board of all the stone blocks. However, it'll be interesting to see as we're now going to finally have viable ways to utilize stone blocks. And while it's not the strongest of power gems out there, or lack thereof, it's literally a gem that does absolutely nothing. However, there are some interesting ways that it can be utilized, mostly to stop double converters and double gem spawners and other similar things. So, not a completely useless mechanic, but it will be primarily used for its final trait. Anyways, let's get over onto all the things that are going on this particular week that we have at this current moment in time. So let's start it from the event itself. The Carrion Crow ends up coming in with brown, blue arcanes. You can get them for 300 glory each. The troop, unfortunately, does not use the new Gargoyle mechanic. Normally, whenever we get a new power gem during a campaign, the very first thing ends up utilizing it. However, in this particular instance, it does not. It ends up dealing some damage to an enemy, and if the enemy is undead, it will deal double damage. If the enemy dies, it create 8 skulls. Overall, nothing particularly special. Nothing really good on its trait. Gets us a nice storm when an enemy dies. Overall, just not really anything that you're going to be getting, other than for another Kingdom Star in Khetar, which I believe brings it to 21 star over there. As far as the event queue drop table, of course, it is associated to the Khetar Kingdom. This is an okay drop table as far as what is available. If we go over to Khetar here and then click show all, we'll be able to see every single thing here. And if we do it by base rarity, there's Ferrous Raw here. However, of course, not as viable anymore for soul farming, given that you can simply just run an Ironhawk team during Vault events and during Nomapalooza and all that, like we just had last weekend, in order to get so much value that not much of a need to really use Ferrous Raw in the current state of the game. Pharaoh Nefertina doesn't really do much either. It's more so just a random depth marker that has a few other mechanics as far as spamming stats effects. The main thing you're kind of looking for if you are going to be opening event keys this week for that is Keeper of Souls. Keeper of Souls is a pretty consistent skull spammer. While not the best skull spammer in the game, he has the highest amount of control, being able to transform any gem you so choose. So it makes it normally so he'll have a pretty high flexibility with actually getting his converts. Other than that, nothing really too special here. Also keep in mind, things that are not in the drop table are the 4 troops from the faction of Fang Moor, as well as... Actually, I believe that's it. Yeah, just the 4 Fang Moor troops are the only thing not available in event key drop table. Everything else you see here is. You're mostly just looking for a Bone Dragon, and that's about it. Or the Mythics if you go for completionist sake. But Keeper of Souls is like the last really viable thing here. There are a few, but some of them are like really low rarity. Like there's actually a few teams that can run Skeleton, oddly enough. Because he's auto actually turned into Skull Spam, which is one of the only few mechanics that does that, oddly enough. But there's a few things that are okay, but you're mostly just looking for a Keeper of Soul, and that's about it, unless you're looking for Kingdom upgrading material. Aside from that, we do have a World Event, as per usual. The World Event is basically don't take the all the T's. The Tutatamun, the Tutantamun, the word. Anyways, but yeah, just don't take that one, if you can even pronounce it. And you'll be fine. Just rarity order and don't take whatever on earth that thing is. And that's the event. As far as weekly stuff, of course, today we have the Fang Moor faction going on, which is a red-blue restriction. Wednesday we're going to be getting the pet for Khetar Barnes. Thursday is Necromancer, which actually an okay hero class. I normally use Archmagus instead, but it's still pretty decent. And Friday we have raids, specifically Sword's Edge raids. So we'll be able to have that as well as a new night weapon for that. I believe it's a explodey weapon? It's one or the other. It's either explodey or gem spawn. I'm pretty sure it's the explodey one that we're going to be getting. As far as the Soul Forge is concerned, we do have Catches the Bowl, which is, I don't feel like it's as useful these days, but still pretty good. It gets hard countered by not Submerge. It gets hard countered by Stealthy. Generally how you want to play him is target 2nd slot, then target 4th slot. He gets a really high boost ratio based on everything, so generally the higher stats that you end up getting, the more you can do with it. And he can boost ratio from any kind of attacking, or any kind of stacking that you do, because magic gives it more damage, attack gives it more damage, life gives it more damage, and armor gives it more damage. Obviously not as much as something that only boosts ratios from one specific thing. However, he does get a mix of all of them, so anything that has a multi-buff, you can end up working out somewhat okay with. Aside from that, Fountain of Stars, unfortunately, is not really that viable. Is that one really big potion one? However, I don't really feel like it gets used for much. Hung Long, another one of those situations, as far as Dragons are concerned, is among one of the better ones. However, the main thing holding it back is a very, very luck-based. However, when it does get luckier, it does tend to be pretty strong. Has a lot of 70% score reduction, which is pretty solid, quite literally. And it also gives a bunch of dragon support. It's among one of the main dragons that you would end up using in a pure dragon team. However, in the current state of the game, pure dragon team, definitely not the greatest that it used to be. So if you're looking for any one thing this week, I would say Catches the Bull is probably the way to go. Also kind of funny, we have 2 different seasonal imps right there. Technically 3, because some are imps in the drop table right now. And these 2 are in Soul Forge. Overall, the imps are kind of useless, though. They're only thing unique about them is that they're kind of seasonal, unless they show up in Soul Forge like that. As far as weapons are concerned, you're mostly looking for the mana accumulating ones. For example, Scarab Blade with the all undead explode and stuff like that. Those are the main ones that you'd probably want to end up getting. If you're looking for like a Guild War option, obviously Doom's Tome, really devastating way to mess around on Blue Guild War Day. But aside from that, nothing really of use here. I believe one of the teams I will be using is going to be doing the Dread Gauntlet as well, which is like a double gem spawning one, but you're mostly just looking for the mana accumulating ones for the most part as far as what's here, with the one exception being, of course, Doom Tome. Though technically Doom Tome is also a mana generating one because it creates a bunch of blues, but also creates a bunch of skulls. Anyways, as far as teams for the week, so we do have several to go and show here. If we end up going over to PvP and clicking over to this. So as far as teams, the first one that we have is for the World Event. It is a... actually, what was the restriction again? I actually forgot off the top of my head. I don't think I clicked on it when we were in the menu earlier. The restriction is of just Khetar only. So anything specifically from Khetar. Also, keep in mind, it is also skull damage only. You do not get any damage for magic, so you have to go really skull heavy. So this first one uses the Empower Apophysis, converts all greens to skulls. We're using that into Book into Double Keeper of Souls. Book creates skulls and creates blue. Keeper Souls has really controlled skulls and going to be the main way they end up winning. And we did it with elementals for safety's sake. Next one we have here ends up utilizing Skeleton. Uses a Dead Gauntlet, as I was mentioning earlier, that boosts ratios off all the undead on the team. Also uses Skeleton, which is actually surprisingly good for a common. Ends up creating 7 skulls, which if that's all it did, it would be kind of underwhelming. However, it also gains armor, and most importantly, an automatic extra turn. This means it is creating skulls while auto extra turning, which is very, very strong. He can struggle sometimes to get his mana back, as he does not have a mana link. If he had a purple link, he would actually probably be meta. If he had a +1 purple as one of his traits, he would probably be insane, like if he had that instead of Undead Bond. Unfortunately, he does not, so feeding him mana can kind of be problematic. He also conflicts with who's the better, like pure purple, Thrall or him, and obviously the answer is Thrall. But for a common, it is a pretty solid option. It's just Thrall and the fact he doesn't have purple link, kind of holding him back from his full potential. Aside from that, we're using Tome Knight just as a tank. Gains barrier, gains a bunch of stats. Really good, just overall tank. Even has some score reduction, even though it barely even needs it. And of course, the Dead Gauntlet is here for the extra mana accumulation support. We're also using Archmages to help fill up the gap of 3 purple. Since Skeleton doesn't have his own links, you can use Archmages to cover it for it. Anyways, next one. The faction restriction is red-blue for Fang Moor, so you can end up running a pretty standard Forest Troll and Truffle team and just do a pure elemental Truffle loop, and that can actually run throughout the entire faction. If you're looking for something a little bit quicker at the higher range, you do have access to Iron Gut Zugoff due to the blue, and you can simply run that. Essence of Evils is here for support and for hiking Iron Gut, and to make sure you don't die. And Harpy Mage is here. You'll get full mana automatically on turn 2 due to enchant, and then you'll have yourself a Harpy Mage, basically a turn 2 empower. Get yourself your mana accumulation and win from there. And if you need any more mana accumulation, you just simply use Essence of Evil. Next we have Pure Faction, which is basically just double Chief Dargon into everything else. You just don't use the one troop. The set here is just for a bunch of red mana accumulation, and you just target whatever the highest gem is. And the other one will end up creating a bunch of skulls, and that will be your main Wicked addition into your Chief Dargons, as they do increase your attack. So basically attack buff, get some extra mana off a Shaman, and then once you're finally all set up, you use the Satori to go and kill out the entire enemy team. And that's basically the premise when utilizing that. Next we have the Necromancer class event for this Thursday. Easiest way to do this is just mana link a bunch into the weapon. In this case, we're using Azurus's. Azurus can also do a bunch of pokes off of skulls. You can end up connecting some skulls together and finishing out whatever happens to be alive, like that 100% revive troop. So you can end up cleaning up that pretty easily as well, especially if you got a Devour prior, increasing your attack. Though it's pure RNG if you do. And aside from that, we do have ourselves some weakened raids, specifically from Sword's Edge, and we'll be getting a new weapon as well. However, easiest way to generally do raids is use Mang into the Boss Slayer. And the Boss Slayer this time around is Queen Herald, and you simply just Mang it, use Queen's Herald, and then win with the rest of your team. This should end up working out pretty well because you have a Skull Spammer as well to synergize with it. Aside from that, even if you don't get your skulls, Queen Jezebel can end up utilizing your attack stat, so she does damage based on wherever she targets attack. So you can just target your hero that just stole billion attack from Zugoff, or specifically all his armor, which converted to attack, and then you simply convert that attack value that you just got into cast damage. And then you have a Skull Spammer to utilize it, you have a Caster to utilize it, and you have this thing just to kill out the raid boss so it doesn't do anything too intimidating. And it should be a pretty easy raid weekend, as team synergy here is pretty much as good as you're going to get for a raid. It actually has among one of the better raid synergies as far as teams are concerned, though most of them are pretty straightforward for the most part. You just use Mang into whatever the raid slayer is. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As per usual, every single team that we end up mentioning in this video will be in the description as well, if you want to go and copy paste any of them throughout the week. Of course, tonight, as per usual, we'll be streaming at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, kind of messing around with all the things throughout the week. We already just did all the campaign tasks a little bit earlier, and of course, tonight we'll be doing the Fang Moor faction. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone, and best of luck with Season 10.